because we know how much you need it. I do have Stephen Mbide. He's in the field and he's ready to interact with the Executive Director for the National Council for Higher Education, and that's none other than Professor Mary Okokwo. We want to talk about the issue of the universities reopening. They reopen on November 1st. We will be getting updates on what is taking center stage within the various universities in that regard. They are also holding another exhibition, education exhibition at the National Council for Higher Education, and we shall also be divulging more details on this. Stephen Mbide, take it away.
Institutions reopened after close to almost 4 months after they were closed down and during this pandemic of COVID-19. But at least now they are in their second week of learning, and we know that every year they have the universities or higher institutions exhibition, and this is also happening again today just because they were able to reopen, but this is going to be virtual. And the First Lady, who is also the Minister of Education and Sports, is going to be gracing this exhibition that is happening here at the National Council for Higher Education headquarters here in Kyambogo, and she is also going to be interfacing with the executive of the council, together with the high institutions of learning, the leadership, as well as some people who are in the know or in the running of these institutions. But this is something that I need to understand more. How is it going to be done? What's the intention, and what do we expect? Because these institutions have a lot of concerns, especially during this pandemic that we are still facing. And let me also engage the able leadership of Dr. Nora Mulira. She is on my left. She is also the Director of ICT Research and Innovations at the National Council for Higher Education. And also on my right is Arthur Babu Muguzi. Yes, and he is the Director of Finance, but also part of the organizing team of this higher education exhibition happening here at Kyambogo. Let me begin with Dr. Nora Mulira. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning.
And thank you for organizing this. But first of all, bring us to speed. The institutions reopened. You've been touring these institutions. What is your report card so far?
Thank you, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to make ourselves accountable to the public. As you correctly said, we have just reopened as a higher education subsector, and we are 2 weeks in. We have inspected some institutions, and we are glad to say that SOPs are being observed, because that is the first element of keeping secure and safe at the moment. Our ED, as well as the Minister himself for Higher Education, have actually traveled up country to inspect institutions for compliance in this regard. We have also been, as the National Council, inspecting institutions for compliance with open, distance and e-learning, which has been the mode of conducting teaching and learning during these difficult times of the COVID-19 pandemic, which have constrained us a lot in terms of physical interaction. And this is where now we come to this event, which you have graciously accepted to cover. And it is online, yes, in compliance with the times that we are dealing with. This is a premier national higher education event that we normally conduct as a council every year in March. We were not able to do so just a day before, in 2020, the pandemic struck, and we are not able to conduct this. But we are here now. We have been forced to be very innovative. The council itself has developed a platform, a virtual platform, to be able to conduct this event. And this is where we are today.
Your department or sector, the issue of ICT, this is a big challenge, not only for these institutions, but of course also Uganda. Issue we are still trying to grow and innovate. There is a need to improve our ICT. How much support do we need to give these institutions so that we upgrade our systems?
This is a challenge, as you have correctly stated, which the council cannot deal with alone. As a regulator, of course, we depend highly on mobilizing from our partnerships, centrally with government, of course, but government alone cannot do this. We have our development partners, and we have the institutions themselves. In terms of mobilizing resources for e-learning, this is a big challenge which we have. We have conducted an e-readiness survey, and we are currently looking at more than half our universities not being able to teach and conduct lessons online. So if we are to move like this in the new normal, we have been indeed challenged. We are looking at government putting in place education rated equipment, tax exempted in many ways than they have done before. I know they have made some effort. We are looking at our higher education institutions to look at our development partners, targeting this as a priority in terms of funding. And not only is it facilities, we are also looking at retooling our teachers, our lecturers, and enabling our students to have the end terminal devices they need to be able to access the lessons that we teach everywhere, anywhere they can be. So it is still a big challenge.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nora Mulida. I will be getting back to you, but let me turn to Arthur. Doctor is talking about retooling and also the financing. These institutions are just reopening. It's barely two weeks into reopening. Many have been talking about at least getting some funding from government, from wherever, to help them run whatever they are running, the programs they are running. You from the council, you are the director of finance, you understand the issues of money and how and administration. Speak to them. They are going to report to you the challenges they are facing right now.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity given to us by NTV for this virtual higher education exhibition. As the directors has said, that it is the first of its own, a virtual higher education, and we are looking at the theme of innovation for content and emerging challenges and opportunities under the COVID pandemic. Yes, we are looking at the challenges of funding, we are looking at the challenges of running institutions, but as you can see that this pandemic is not going to end tomorrow. And as institutions, we must be able to survive. We must be able to continue learning, and that's why we developed what we call open distance and e-learning, so that institutions can continue learning even despite the other challenges. Now, we know that institutions are constrained, but we must be able to innovate and use the available resources as a country, as institutions, to make sure that we continue running. And the purpose of this exhibition, that the First Lady and Honorary Minister of Education will be able to open at 11, is to ask the institutions to tell us how are they going to survive, how are they going to make it. Because we must, as higher education institutions, give hope to our country. Because we are the only people, the only institutions that are a source of knowledge through research, through innovation, through looking at our contents and curriculum. Once we do that, then it becomes much easier for institutions, for our learners, for our parents to have the hope in our country, even amidst these challenges. And we are grateful to the government that higher education institutions were considered as the first to be opened. And as we have alluded to, we have been able to go to the east in Bustema, we have been able to go to Mbalala, and we can confirm that our institutions are ready to run, are ready to follow SOPs, and we are able to catch up with the pandemic and be able to change the terrain of higher education in this country. As you are well aware, higher education and education overall in our country is something that we need to treasure, is something that is of comparative advantage in the region, and therefore we should be able to remain relevant and be able to offer better quality higher education to our citizens.
When you talk about better quality education to our citizens, they are going to be coming here in time from now, and they will be interfacing with you, also the minister.
Yes.
They will be reporting to you, but what would you tell them to ensure they foster better education so that we have quality output on the market?
Yeah, as the National Council for Education, as a regulator, we set up minimum standards, and we expect each institution to follow these minimum standards, even amidst the pandemic challenges. And that's why the theme of this exhibition, virtual exhibition, is how are you being able to innovate. It's not going to do business as usual. It's a new normal, and we must be able to survive in the new normal. And therefore, we must look at their strategies, we must look at their plans, we must reevaluate our plans to make sure that they fit into the new normal. Because the learner must continue learning, graduations must continue, admissions must continue, lecturers must continue teaching, but teaching in the new normal. Now, we must look at facilities. Dr. Nora was alluding to the costs of the computers, the cost of data, the taxes involved. Those are things we need to engage. And once we have such exhibition, then it's a platform so that we are able to get out to the voice, especially of the private institutions and even public institutions who are also struggling, that we can be able to get out one voice and be able to engage government and be able to see what are the viable options amidst constrained resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arthur. Let me also turn again to Dr. Nora Mlida, the Director, ICT Research and Innovations here at the National Council for Education. We've been in almost a two-year lockdown, and many people are saying that this is going to have a bigger negative impact on our education. Many many kids or even students have been out of school, many have gone into other businesses. They're not even willing to come back to university or secondary schools. Have you done, you as the council, have you done an assessment on the impact of this lockdown on our education and the output probably?
And thank you again. As Director of Finance Arthur has just said, this is a time for resilience and recovery. The council has done its part in terms of inspecting, in terms of getting readiness for how higher education institutions operate in the new normal. Yes, we cannot say that this is going to be plain sailing. Resilience and recovery is what this exhibition is all about. The institutions that will feature on our virtual platform are actually demonstrating that they are able to start again. They may be in very difficult circumstances in terms of resources, in terms of student turn-up, but they are able, they are showing, and that is what we need, the starting point for students to know that institutions are able to run and they will be able to provide this education. As Arthur has said, we are not going to compromise on standards, we are not going to compromise as regulators, and no institution is going to compromise on the curriculum and teaching standards. So it is a challenge for both of us as higher education, as regulators and higher education institutions, in terms of how we maintain that, how we mobilize students to come back again, how we bring back our teachers on board. But again, this recovery is a partnership with government, making sure that teachers and students are able to return back to school and are able to actually take on the innovation challenge. Okay. As Arthur has said, we are talking about innovations, and the theme for this exhibition is appropriately around opportunities and challenges under the COVID-19 pandemic and how institutions will rise above that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nora Mlida, Director for ICT Research and Innovations at the National Council for Education, but also Arthur Babu Muguzi, the Director of Finance and Administration, also part of the organizing team of this higher education exhibition. And of course, we shall be keeping tabs on this, and of course, we'll be getting much more details that will be happening here in our subsequent bulletins. That is NTV at 1, NTV Kaungezi, and NTV Tonight. Just keep it here on NTV. Stephen Imbido on Fefeswe Chuga, handing you back to Romeo Siku in the studios.